Hi, Michael, the Mercedes guy here, and we're going to talk about steering linkage and if it's loose or not. So, what you want to do is have somebody in the car, start it up, and have them wiggle the steering wheel about 2 inches back and forth. And as you notice, even with the engine not running, it's pretty tight. That we can see that wheel moving. Go over to the other side. It should be moving the same amount. If that's the case, your steering's pretty tight. But if you notice that one tire moves and the other one doesn't, you've got a bad ball joint in there somewhere. So for ease of this instruction, I've got some steering parts off right here. And these have these ball joints that move, and that one's really tight. This one, let me put this in a vise so that it's very easy to see. That's what you're dealing with when you have a bad, these are called tie rods, and this is the tie rod end. So you definitely want to replace that. And especially when you have a rubber go bad, you want to replace it, even if it feels tight. That's because by now there's dirt and water that's got in there, and it's started to deteriorate. And your steering is one of the most important things on the car. You never want to be using any parts that would be faulty. So that's what you want to replace. Now when you replace these, you unscrew this, and these have threads on that go into the shaft. One of these is a right-hand thread, the other one is a left-hand thread. So what you want to do before you remove it is to take a tape measure and measure from center to center and write that measurement down. Well, that's a pretty worn out tape measure. That's been around a few years. So we've got 12 and 11/16. So you write that down, then you unscrew the tie rod end. Now sometimes these are so tight, very difficult to get them out. So if that's the case, you may want to take the tie rod off the car so that you can actually use a hammer and beat on it. So right in this area right here, the thread extends in about that far. So to loosen it up, just beat on that. And then it will loosen enough to where you can unscrew it out. Now, how do you take the actual joint off of an arm? This happens to be the idler arm, and as you see, we've got a cotter pin and a nut. The newer cars don't even use a cotter pin and a castle nut, they just use a locking nut. But I'm going to show you how to take these apart. Okay, we got our cotter pin out of there, and then we're going to loosen that nut. Now, here's the trick. You do not want to take the nut all the way off. You want to leave that nut on about like that. And then you want one of these tools. This is EverTough 67008. But there's various brands. And they usually have a cup that goes over this point. I actually prefer taking that cup off and using it thusly. And you want to get it right in there and right into that cavity. And I like impact wrench. It's the way to go. And bingo, we've forced it out, and your tie rod comes off. You notice it's tapered, and this is a larger hole here than here. So now, those can be on there extremely tight sometimes. You'll have your... You can call this a puller, but it's actually a pusher. You'll have your pusher on there, and nothing is happening, and you're really torquing down on it. So the trick, when they're very stubborn, is to put one hammer on one side and beat this right here really hard. What that does is shock the hole a little bit, and then it'll pop out. Now, a lot of people use pickle forks. They go in here and you pry them off. Well, for one thing, if there's a good rubber, you ruin it. I like to not ruin parts, because sometimes you need a rubber, and these rubbers actually come off. There's a little ring that runs around here, and you can pry it off, and if you got a good rubber and you've damaged the rubber, you can replace the rubber.